All right, hey Rondel, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I wanted to ask you about what you guys call Coach Boynton in practice, like when you're talking to him in the huddle or after drill. I heard it's Coach B, right? What do you guys refer to him as?
I refer to him as Coach B, to be honest. Coach Boynton doesn't have a better ring than Coach B, so we don't really prefer him as that.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. And like as simple as that is, do you think that kind of shows a little bit of a bond and kind of like familiarity with you guys that's important just to call them, by a little bit of a nickname?
For sure, I feel like that was kind of we worked towards that. But like, as far as all of us were like in our recruitment process coming up to this, and just being in touch with him from that, and just getting close together over the years, I feel like that was an easy transition for us.
Yeah. And my last question for you is, what's the coolest nickname you've ever called a coach? Even back to middle school or high school. What's the coolest nickname you've ever had a coach go by?
Uh, in middle school, we used to call our Coach Buzz. He was like Buzz Lightyear, so we used to call him Buzz for the whole year. So that's pretty much it.
Gotcha. Thanks, Rondell.
No problem.
Next question coming from Chris Becker. Go for it, Chris.
Hey Rondell, how you doing?
You doing well? How you doing?
I'm doing well. So you guys got your schedule the other day. Big 12 conference and non-conference schedules both released finally. Does that finally give you guys some direction of something to look forward to? Now you have dates and schedules for all these games.
Facts. Like in the beginning, we didn't know really what was up for the year, like just the practices and working out, but really didn't have anything you feel like to work out for at the moment because nothing was set in stone. Everything could just change at any moment. But that finally being set in stone just gives it extra motivation, to push through it and play in a month really. So it's made it that much easier for us to wake up every day and get better.
Yeah. Do you see any difficulties in playing in a shortened season with just a few games before you start conference schedule?
Not really. I feel like since then we have more time to prepare really. Since games, not everything starts back later and everything's a shortened schedule. So I feel like we'll be more prepared and we'll be well prepared for like the conference schedule and before that. So we'll just take it one game at a time and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Rondell.
No problem.
The next question is coming from Frank Bonner of the Tulsa World.
Hey, Rondell, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Frank. How you doing?
Doing well. Now that you've had, a number of practices and workouts under your belt, how have they been for you in your first year?
So far so well. It's just the transition. I feel like me playing AAU at such a high level early on, leading up to this, it really wasn't just a shell shock like most players, or not most players, but like players sometimes see. It was more of just getting adjusted to, guys being bigger, faster, stronger, and just compete with them every day. So I feel like for me, it really wasn't that bad, but, it's just me.
What has been the biggest transition for you?
Just knowing that I'm competing with guys that are just as good as me, if not better, every day and every night. In high school, wherever you come from, you really don't see that every day. You get to practice with the best in the country. And so just doing that every day and waking up and knowing that I'm going to get better every single day and my teammates are going to push me every single day is something that I got used to and I'm glad I did get used to.
Now, I know a number of you guys in that freshman class, knew each other before getting here. But now that you guys are here, how's it been just being able to establish a chemistry as one collective group?
It felt like it's fun. I feel like we established that chemistry off the court before we even got on the court, which made it that much easier on the court to transition and to just know where you guys is at just from how you guys interact off the court. Me playing with Kay off the court, me playing with Cheryl just made it that much easier for us to gel and have more time to gel off the court, which made it that much easier on.
I appreciate you.
No problem.
Next question from Dean Rule. Go for it, Dean.
Hey there, how you doing today, Rondell?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Can you kind of talk about the relationship you have with D. Mitchell? You're kind of coming in as a freshman, and he's one of the upperclassmen. What's that kind of relationship look like between the two of you?
Me and D get along real well. It's just me and him are always together when we have practice or something like that. He always catches little jokes. He always got a little jokes with me. So it's like that. He's a hard worker, so that rubs off on everybody, and it's contagious. Everybody tries to match D energy with us in the weight room on the court, and it's just like, how can you not respect a guy who works that many hours and competes with us whenever he can? It's like that's something that's good for our team. I'm glad he's on the team for it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Next question from Marshall Scott. Go for it, Marshall.
Hey, Rondel, thanks for taking the time. Just to start, what's the inspiration behind the hairdo? I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like what you're rocking.
I do the two-strand and one side braided back and the other side letting the hand. It's just, I don't know, it's something different. You know, I get all the time. Like, I've never seen that before. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. You know, it's something different rather than just fitting in, standing out. It's just conversation starter.
Work. What was your recruiting process like? And then also, what was it like? You know, you committed, I think, like a week or so before Cade. Kind of what was that kind of, you know, trying to recruit him also like for you?
It was pretty slow for a while, and then after Peace Jam, it kind of got hectic, kind of real quick, and it made me make some decisions quicker than I would have, you know, worked harder in the beginning. But as far as that, me committing a week before Cade, it was just, we talked about it months before. We was like, let's go to Oklahoma State for our visit, because me, him, and Mike Miles, who committed to TCU, this is all our common offer. So we were like, let's just go enjoy the visit as like together type things. We did, and then we got here. We were like, whoa, like we can really make this work. And so from then on, it's just like that's what we want to do.
There, towards the end of Cade's process, were you? I don't know if "worry" is the right word, but you're like, hey, maybe he doesn't end up here with me, or is there any of those thoughts going on?
We knew where we wanted to be, and I have faith in his word, so I would over there.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, Rondo.
For sure.
All right, Jimmy Gillespie, Stillwater News Press. Go for it, Jimmy.
Rondel, how you doing?
You doing? How you doing?
Good. Hey, obviously it's a very deep guard lineup this year. What do you see yourself bringing to the table to try to get some minutes on the court?
I feel like I established myself early on as one of our primary defenders, so I feel like that'll keep me on the court as well. And I see myself really being a 3-and-D type player, you know, make plays when plays present itself, and I feel like that'll take me a long way.
All right, nice. Now, so what's it been like trying to fit in with this lineup? And, you know, there's so many guys that can play, you know, a 1 through probably 4 position. What's it been like trying to gel and also just, you know, find your spot?
I feel like it's been pretty fun. I know, like, if you're a competitor, you compete. And every day we compete in practice and sink or swim. So we always bring the best out of each other, and we bring the worst out of each other and try to get our worst better. So I feel like that aspect, it brings a lot out of us that we didn't think we had. And I feel like how we practice in practice, like, just helps us overall.
Thanks, Rondel.
No problem.
And let's take you over to Robert Allen. Go for it, Robert.
There we go. Rondel, I was going to ask you simple. I saw you play in high school at PC West, and again, thought you were pretty prepared for this level. But now that you've been in practice, full practice, has anything surprised you? And have you found something that in your game, man, I really have to bring this up? Or has it been a situation where you really feel like, hey, I'm pretty close to being prepared for this level?
I feel like I surprised myself with how not much easy, but easy in a sense of transition would be. I feel like Coach Mike makes it easy for all of us to be well prepared and to put us in a position to thrive each as individuals. So I feel like that aspect hasn't been pretty hard, but
how competitive is it amongst you and, for that matter, Cade and you know, even the guys who've been here a while, like the Boone twins? I mean, how competitive does it get out there in practice?
As competitive as you could get in a practice setting. You know, like I said, like you said before, in the person who asked the earlier question, we have a lot of guards, so we're all teammates, but at the end of the day, we're all competing against each other. And being that we are a guard heavy in the team, I feel like that makes it that much easier for us to bring the best out of each other and try to push each other. Because if we make the other man better, we just make the team better. So I feel like everything in practice is competition. So it's either you win or you lose, and you want to be on that winning team.
Hey, I appreciate you. Thanks.
Appreciate you.
All right, next, let's head over to Marshall Scott once again. Thanks, Marshall.
Hey, Rondel, you mentioned the Peach Jam earlier, and that was kind of where the momentum started for Cade to be that #1 guy. Was that frustrating for you guys to see that he was 3, he was 2, and like he just couldn't get over that hump and kind of tell at the end there? What was that? What were those talks like, I guess, between you guys?
We really didn't talk about this number one ranking like that, but we all knew like where we was in our minds. So it's like we never really just gonna get a clear and definitive answer until those rankings came out. So we didn't really worry about that at the time. It was more of winning PGM and getting better for PGM. So that was really discussion, looking more at teams rather than teams players, stuff like that. So we was really getting prepared for that.
Gotcha. Thanks, Rondel.
Yes, sir.
Next question from Grant Ramirez. Go for it, Grant.
Hey, Rondel, you mentioned wanting to be a good 3-and-D player. You come into a roster with some already established defensive guards like Ice and Avery. What have they taught you just on the defensive side of the ball in terms of just making that adjustment?
It's just little things as far as transition from high school to college, like certain things like slide into a quick sprint. It's like little things that just help you be quicker and faster as far as the next level, because this isn't high school anymore and guys are just as fast as you and just as strong as you. So it's those little things to where you have to be just to help me enhance my defensive ability.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Probably have time for another question or so. If you guys have it, feel free to raise your hand. If not, I will let Rondel head to his study hall session. Any other last questions? Robert, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Rondel, now that the schedule is out and you can see what the path is, and obviously, it's TBA for that first game up in Lincoln, Nebraska, but as you've looked at the schedule, is there anything you see on there and say, wow, man, I can't wait, I can't wait to play that game?
I feel like OU is always a great game for OSU, so that was definitely on. I like to travel. I've never been to West Virginia, so I'm looking forward to that game. Just any game in the Big 12 in general, that's one of the best leagues in the country. So every game you get is a great game. So I just look forward to finally being able to put to the work everything we put in.
Yeah, a lot of guys look forward to that Allen Fieldhouse thing, and that's going to be a big Monday at Kansas. So that's not a bad one. That's kind of a cathedral.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Jimmy, you had your hand up. Did you have one more question?
Yeah, just one quick question. Rondel, obviously last year, didn't play in the state tournament. What was that like, and how disappointing was it? And now leading into here, how excited are you to play your first basketball game in many, many months?
I feel like that was probably the lowest I've been for anything regarding basketball ever. Like after that, I was just like, I was shook. Like I didn't touch a gym for like 2 weeks. I was just chilling. I just felt like that I wasted a whole year because I felt like in my heart that if I'd have known that we wouldn't have had state, I would have went and would have went prep for a year and just pushed myself to get better as far as that. So I feel like with me staying was my overall purpose for staying was to win a state championship. So I feel like with that taken away, I felt like I kind of wasted a whole year in a sense, but everything happens for a reason.
Yep. Thanks.
No problem.
Anybody else have a question for Rondel? Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rondel, for joining us, and we'll be right back with Chris Harris here shortly.
Thank you.
I'll have you guys start raising your hands, but as everybody's getting ready for the call, Chris, I'll just have you start. Obviously, last year, you suffered a pretty serious knee injury, but the recovery's going really well. I'll let you update everyone on this call about how that's going and let you get us started.
Well, as everyone knows, I tore my ACL, my LCL, and the post capsule. But as of right now, it's going good. I'm 9 months in. I get my last checkup next week. So I'm just trying to get it as best as I can and be ready for the season.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I've got a couple questions here. Chris Becker, go ahead and get us started.
Hey, Chris, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. You guys finally have your schedule released. Does that make it feel like, there's a direction going into the season now that you have dates and games and all that?
Yeah, it's something for us to look forward to. We're not just looking forward to practices and just scrimmaging with the guys. We actually get to compete against somebody else, and get a couple wins on that win column.
Are there any worries that you have that you can see going forward with a shortened season before non-conference schedule or before conference schedule starts?
Not really. We're bonding good, so our team chemistry is getting great. So it's just a matter of time so we can all put it all together.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Frank Bonner at Tulsa World, you are up next.
Hey, Chris, good to see you. How's it going?
Good to see you. How you doing?
Doing well. Going back to your injury, what type of, mental toll did that take on you having to go through something like that?
Tearing ACL isn't, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but, I just had to keep a positive mindset through the whole process and just know that, God has a plan for me. So I just kept, keeping everything positive and just thinking about all the great things that can come out of my injury.
And then when you got to a point where you were able to participate in your first workout or your first practice and get back there on the court, what was that like, just being out there after, sitting on it for so long?
I used to get so mad when I was at home and I used to have to watch my brothers and sisters just work out. So when I was finally able to get back on the court, it's like a lot of weight off my shoulders knowing that I'm actually back out here and able to contribute and, just get my game back, to as best as I can get it to.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next question will come from Dean Rule. Go ahead and get us started, Dean.
Hey, how you doing today, Chris?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. You've known D. Mitchell now for over a year. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about how you've seen him progress, not only on the basketball court, but as a person?
Hey, man, D is a hard worker. Like, D is like, if there's anybody I want to look up to as far as, being motivated, being, wanting to be the best he can be, I would definitely look up to D. D has, taught me how to, go over, the hump of being tired of doing stuff that I normally wouldn't do. And I'm glad that I met D. And I've known D for about 4 years now. We actually played AAU together my freshman year.
And can you talk about playing AAU with Chris? What was that like? Or with D, I'm sorry.
He was real quiet back then, but once we got on the court, he was real vocal. He wanted everybody, to make sure that they know that he knew that we were all together as a team, and he just wanted to really bond with us. And it was great to play with him then, and it's great to be with him now.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next question is from Ben Hutchins. Ben?
Hey, Chris, how you doing today?
My God, Ben, what's happening?
Well, I already knew you were doing good because you said it to 3 other people, but I just thought I'd just make sure. No, I wanted to ask you about Coach Boynton going by Coach B. That's what Rondel was saying, just goes by Coach B. How long has he been doing that? And was that something he asked you guys to call him?
I've always called Coach B because at first I didn't really know how to say his name properly. I'll call him Boynton, something like that. So I've always just pronounced it Coach B, but as the relationship grew, I just got comfortable calling him Coach B.
Gotcha. And is that pretty common, for basketball players to call coaches by kind of nicknames?
I mean, I wouldn't know, but my relationship with Coach Mike Boynton is actually great. So I don't really think of it as no type of disrespect towards the head coach. I just think about it as I'm just calling him by the name I always call him.
Yeah, and my last question for you, Chris, is Rondell set the bar pretty high. I asked him the coolest nickname he'd ever, had a coach go by, and he said Buzz, as in Buzz Lightyear. He went, one of his coaches went by. What's the coolest nickname you've ever called a coach by?
Cool Breeze. I called Tyrese Maxey's dad Cool Breeze because he's just so laid back and just so cool. So I just called him Cool Breeze.
Gotcha. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Frank had another question. Go for it, Frank.
Hey, Chris, last year, you guys were the new guys on campus, your freshman class. What's it like, being a year older and watching this year's freshman class come in?
Last year we had a lot of matches, but now it's easier to help, the new freshmen, being able to help them and give them the sponge and help them sponge everything that we learned back then. So it's like we're like the older guys now, so now we can just help them not go through the same path we went through and just succeed early on.
Now, because the roster's so young, you guys may have to take more of a leadership than, typical sophomores in another program. How has that been, knowing that, you're going to be looked at as kind of one of the veterans only in your second year?
Coming in, I knew we was gonna have a young group, so I wanted to talk to them early on. So when we first got together, I wanted to be very vocal and let them know that they need any help, I'm here, because I've been here before, and I just take on a leadership role and just keep talking and keeping their ear and letting them know that I'm here for them if they need any type of help.
And what have you seen out of them, just in their work ethic and the way they've been getting after it in workouts?
All of them are driven. They're doing their best, and they just want to compete. I love all of our newcomers, competitive stamina, competitive spirits, all that.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
And the next question will come from Marshall Scott.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking the time. You mentioned knowing D for a long time now. I was talking to Mike about this last year. It seems like everybody I talked to, whether it's a recruit or a player on the team, they seem to have known you for a really long time. So how do you know so many people?
Just around the basketball world, I travel a lot. I traveled a lot, and basketball had me meet a lot of new people.
Gotcha. Mike said that you kind of enjoy recruiting guys too. Are there how many players on the team do you think that you kind of had a hand in helping recruit them?
They probably would say I didn't have a hand in it, but I know I had a hand in like at least 2 or 3 of our incoming freshmen. At least 2 or 3.
Who are those guys?
I don't want to say no names, but at least 2 or 3 are incoming freshmen.
Gotcha. Is that so? Is recruiting kind of something that you like to do?
I like players that like to play around me, not like around me, but like I like players that like to compete. So if I feel like he can help the team, I'll go above and beyond and try to get him to play with me.
With your ability to talk to people, with your ability to kind of like competing with people that
I have a great personality, so I guess with my great personality comes with a lot of great talk. So I guess I'm pretty good at recruiting too.
Yeah, that kind of seems like you're kind of setting yourself up for like a coaching future. Is that something that you've thought of post playing career?
I thought about coaching. I thought about strength and conditioning, but I'm gonna do the basketball until I can't no more.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thank you.
We have time for another question or two for Chris Harris. If you guys have it, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get you taken care of. Danielle, go for it.
Chris, can you just talk about Rondel? I mean, he's a local kid here. We just talked with him, but hopefully he's not in the room anymore. But how have you seen him so far? Coming in as a freshman, I got to cover him in high school, but just what have you seen that's been good so far with him that has stuck out to you?
What Rondel has grown in is really putting on a lot of weight and being vocal on the defensive and offensive end. He's running like crazy. He's knocking down shots. He's playing great defense. So with the way he's putting on, will make him a heck of a player in the future.
And I have a follow-up on a different note. So you were in the program last year when Kate's brother Cannon came in as part of the coaching staff. What's it like now seeing that dynamic between the two? And does it almost kind of make the rest of you feel like you're a part of that family in a way, like he is kind of a big brother to maybe more than just Cade?
I felt as him as a big brother last year. He took me under his wing and just told me how to, just be myself when I'm playing. So now that him and Cade are there, it doesn't feel no different, but you can tell how, he's very active and Cade is very vocal. They're both very vocal, but now we have another brother, to lean on as well.
And last follow-up, sorry, on another different note, Rondel talked about and you kind of mentioned too, the team chemistry really isn't in a question for you guys. You feel it's at a good pace. so far this season. Do you feel, even though quarantine, cut the season short and all of that with COVID, and there's been a lot of nuances, was it somewhat of a factor in making that chemistry grow because you guys did have to maybe spend more time talking, going through plays, the Zoom calls and things like that, instead of focusing so much on just the physical aspect?
I feel like as soon as everybody touched down on campus, we like clicked since then, and we all talked and we all had meetings. Everybody called a different meeting. Everybody was just talking to each other. We just bonded like off rip. So I feel like that's what like actually started our chemistry. And once it went out on the court, it just like translated over from off the court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marshall Scott, you are up.
You mentioned Tyrese earlier. You've obviously been around a lot of top 10 NBA type guys. What makes Cade so good?
Cade is so indecisive with his game. He has a wide body. He has all the tools to get to any type of spot. He got a mid-range game. He has a post-up game. He can knock down shots, and he's just like he's real active on ball defender, and he's just so indecisive with everything he does. You'll never know what he's gonna do. And he's not super fast, but in open court he's fast, but has a wide body, not to get to the spots.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thank you.
If anyone has any more questions, we can maybe take one more before getting Coach Mike on, or Coach B. I'm sorry, everyone's been calling him Coach B. Anyway, appreciate Chris Harris joining us, and good luck as we get closer to the season. Chris, thanks for coming on.
Thank y'all.
And how this Big 12 schedule shakes out for you.
Yeah, I'll let that statement stand as a personal statement in terms of excitement about the Big 12 schedule. I don't know how excited I am about it. It's the schedule, right? It's a tough schedule. It's a schedule that we all sign up for when we play in this league. But certainly, obviously, you get to realize that it's real, and these are the teams you got to face for. It will be a little bit more than 2.5 months this year since we start league play in December. But there's a lot of opportunities out there, as always, in our conference, which we believe is the best basketball conference in America. And what I am excited about is the opportunity to coach my team every day, the opportunity to help these guys get better, and hopefully continue to build some chemistry and some competitive stamina within our group so that we can go out and try to represent as best as we can when those opportunities start to come in December.
Thank you, Coach. We'll have everybody raise their hand and start taking those questions now. The first question will be from Chris Becker.
Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
Doing well. You talked about the schedule just a second ago. Does having the schedule now kind of give the team a sense of direction moving forward to have, that you have dates and you have these games on the calendar now?
Yeah. I don't know if it was just not – we don't have a non-conference schedule final yet. So sense of direction is probably a word that's going to be I don't really know what to describe, right? Everything's kind of temporary. We just hold on day by day, and whatever the schedule ends up being before we start is very likely to change as we go along. So what we're going to do is just focus on the day-to-day. We are excited about the opportunity to continue to work with these guys. They've shown great attitudes and tremendous improvement in my mind through 10 practices. And so what we're focused on is not what the schedule is, but what are we doing every day to maximize our ability as a group? And however the schedule ends up playing itself out, once we can start playing those games, we'll take it as we come. Obviously, as you can see from a football standpoint, these things are still very fluid, even once you get into the playing part of the season.
Right. And, as the coach, are there any difficulties that you can see in playing a shortened season that might arise?
Are there any difficulties? Is that a trick question? There are a lot of challenges in front of us. Yeah. I mean, so I don't know if the number of games is one of them. Obviously, just everything we're dealing with. There's so many unknowns, right? How are we going to play one game? let alone 18 conference games plus however many we can squeeze in against out-of-conference teams. Like, what does that look like? And so, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of challenges. And so because so many of those challenges are well outside of our control, we try to really put a lot of energy into just getting better every day so that we can be as prepared as possible when those opportunities present themselves.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
No problem.
The next question will come from Frank Bonner. Go for it, Frank.
Hey, Mike.
So, Frank.
Speaking of challenges, we talked a little bit about the conditioning and how important that is in this time. With about a month left to go before the start of the season, how is the conditioning level today for your guys?
I'll be honest. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't really know what I should expect now, right? Because the schedule from June to now has been so different. We've conditioned as a team differently. I don't sense that we're grossly out of shape, but a lot of it you just kind of assume relative to what you think you've been able to do before. Mm-hmm. And this is so different, right? We haven't had to go through practice this way before. And I don't know if it's good news or not, right? But one of our opponents has been reported to have been shut down. Marquette, we're going to play Marquette in Milwaukee here early December, cross our fingers. And they haven't been able to practice at all in the last week. And I don't know when they're going to get back on the court. So we could very well be in that situation here before we get started. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's one thing you can keep asking as the season goes along, honestly, and something it'd be good to monitor. Just what the effects of the inconsistency in the schedule has on each team. And if I notice anything different, I'll tell you. But at this point, I can't really tell any difference.
Now, with the guys that you've already had from your sophomores and up versus your incoming freshmen, I would assume that they've already had a base level of conditioning that the freshmen may not have just because they've been in your program.
Yes. So if you're asking that, right, that's a different question. Do I see any difference between those guys as opposed to the new guys? The new guys, I don't know. I don't know what the new guys' capacity is.
Right.
I have no idea. I haven't really been able to push them past, to their max or even see if they can dig a little deeper. But with our returners, it's complicated only because there has been some inconsistency with guys being available for practice. And so I think I know what they can do. I just don't know if their capacity has been expanded now a year in or if it's been shortened because we had some guys out this summer. So I'll continue to monitor. I like where we are. To answer your question, I don't feel like we're far behind, in terms of conditioning. We have a lot to work on defensively and from a rebounding standpoint, but from a pure conditioning standpoint, we've been able to compete pretty hard in practice for about 2 weeks now, and I feel good about where we are here on October 28th.
Thanks, Mike.
And before we go on to the next question, to let everybody know, the Big 12 preseason all-conference team just got released, and Cade was named the league's freshman of the year, as well as earned a spot on the preseason all Big 12 team. So just to give everybody heads up, just in case you didn't see that. Next question will come to us from Marshall Scott.
Okay, sorry, I was off doing other things. Mike, the Orlando bubble seems to have kind of fallen through. Has that had any residual effects on what's happening in Lincoln?
Yeah, everything has a residual effect on everything. I just think that's, what it is. You obviously got teams trying to pivot and figure out what the next best options are. I'm not organizing the event, so I don't know all the specifics of how that's manifesting itself. But we're certainly trying to monitor it as closely as possible to see what could be most beneficial for our program.
So it sounds like anyways, there is a possibility that either that doesn't happen or you guys aren't a part of it moving forward. There's a possibility anyways.
I can't really speak to that at this point. I'll just say, just like everything else, the scheduling is a fluid situation. And probably will be even as we get into it. I mean, I swear I could envision a scenario where we're supposed to play a game on a Friday and I tell you on Monday that we're planning for it. And by Thursday, we're putting out a release that something else is happening. that's just kind of where we are. Unfortunately, I know that doesn't help you guys be able to report as early as possible, but I just think that's something we got to adjust to. And so what we've done is we've just kept every option that we can available for us, and trying to give ourselves the best chance to play as many games as are possible for this group.
What all kind of goes into those decisions of being a non-conference opponent? Because I imagine, different states do different things and stuff like that. What all are some of the things that go into it that, maybe the normal person wouldn't think about?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing everyone thinks about is testing. What does that look like? And it's not the same across the board. Every conference has their own protocols. Then even within a conference, different states have different protocols, right? And I don't know what they all are in West Virginia or Iowa or Texas or Kansas. I know what they are here in Oklahoma. So when we travel somewhere, what are the things that we need to be mindful of? I'll give you an example. There's some states you have to stay in for a certain amount of time if you go there, right? You have to quarantine, so to speak, for 14 days. I don't think any of those states are in our league, but if they are, how does that factor into us being able to play in those places? And that's the same thing in non-conference. Obviously, you have much more variation in the states that you play in if you're not playing at home. The other thing is, what are the protocols when someone does test positive? And that seems to, although it shouldn't, it seems to vary from conference to conference, from state to state. And, we just saw it play out in front of our eyes. Coach Saban, who I got great respect for, he has a positive test for the virus on a Wednesday. He coaches a game on a Saturday, right? And meanwhile, I think Coach Miles at Kansas had a positive test for the virus, and he missed the game even after he was clear because of concern, so it's just, there's so many differences in how this stuff is being interpreted and what's deemed safe. And so I think that is the biggest challenge we have, is there's not uniformity, right? Everyone's not playing by the same rules, so to speak. Not that anybody's cheating, but they're playing by the rules that they're governed by. And we obviously are playing by the rules by the Big 12 and the state of Oklahoma. And so I think those are some of the things that people don't think. They think that everybody's just doing the same thing, and that's just not factual.
I don't know how feasible this would be. Would it be easier if the NCAA, said, hey, this is how everybody's going to be? Would that be something that would be easier for you guys?
Probably. I've always said our biggest challenge is we've got a lot of competing interests, right? The NCAA really just is there to oversee the universities under its umbrella, and then to host the championships. But the conferences and the school presidents really are the ones who make the rules. So if the Big 12 presidents meet and decide this, like they did in football in the fall, the Big 10 presidents in conference gets together and decide this, then the NCAA can't really tell either one that they can't do those different things. And therein lies some of the challenge that we have.
Yes, appreciate it.
Speaking of that, not to go on a tangent, but I think I saw, only because I still kind of keep track with Stephen F. Austin, I guess the Southland Conference opted not to play fall football as a conference, but they gave schools the choice to play games. Only 2 of the conference schools, I hope I'm correct in this, I think Abilene Christian and Stephen F. Austin decided to play games. So they played each other. And I think Stephen F. Austin won in double overtime and crowned themselves the conference champions.
That's one way to do it.
Sure. I guess that works, right? But that's kind of, who says they're not? There's only one other team. They played them. They beat them. They won't play football again in the fall of 2020. So for the fall of 2020, Stephen F. Austin is the Southland Conference champions. They're not acknowledged by the league, but who cares? They get to make a trophy and have some rings, I guess.
It's the Wild West out there.
Under the same umbrella, I'll go get our 2020 Big 12 Tournament Championship banner. Get that started.
Yeah, the conference tournament. We did win, man. So,
Dean Rule, next question. Go for it, Dean.
Hey, how you doing today, Mike?
Dean, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I was just hoping maybe you could talk on how you as, since D. Mitchell kind of came to the program, how you as his coach have seen him progress as a player, a leader, and just as a person overall.
Oh man, I don't know if you guys have enough time for me to talk about D. Mitchell on this deal. I meant every word I say and try to be pretty straightforward and honest. So I'll just give you a quick 25-cent version of the story. So he came here as a regular student after playing high school in Jefferson, Texas. He comes to my office sometime in the fall of 2018, I guess it would have been, and asks if he could be a part of the program in some capacity, preferably walk on. I told him at that moment we weren't envisioning adding any walk-ons to the team, but to stay in touch, I kind of knew some of the guys that he grew up in. He played AU basketball in Dallas with some of our, current sophomores. And so I knew of him, just wasn't looking to add anybody. As the story goes, we get to January, we dismiss several guys from our team. We have open tryouts. D. Mitchell shows up. He's clearly one of the best guys there. And, he takes his opportunity and makes the most of it, to the point where, I don't know if you followed our team that year. We go to Texas Tech, the team that plays for the national championship that year and almost wins the whole thing. And he makes a shot late in the second half to give us a chance to win the game. And, comes back last year, continues to help us, ends up starting a game and playing in others. I also remember not just the Houston game, but he was an integral part of playing against TCU at home, pretty much breaking our winless streak in the Big 12 last year. So he's always answered the bell. He's never complained about anything. And so this fall, he came to me with a challenge. He said, Coach, I got a problem. My mom, with the pandemic, has really fallen on hard times. Not sure she's going to be able to sustain paying for me to go to school. So I have to find a way to help. And so I need to go work. And I'm not sure I can do that and still be a part of the team. I couldn't let the kid, knowing who he is and what he's about, feel like he was losing out on the opportunity to do what he really loves, which is playing basketball and helping our team. And so I told him at the moment, D, if that's what you need to do, you go do that, and you have a spot here. Whatever day you can make it, whatever time you can be here. And he works, between 30 and 40 hours every week at Walmart here in town. And then he shows up for 19 hours of class, in which he's got 5 A's and 1 B right now at present. And he shows up to practice whenever he can. He gives us tremendous effort and energy. And, I hope that I can find a way to continue to reward and tell his story, because it is truly what college athletics is about. And that kid's going to be a superstar in his life, well beyond Oklahoma State University.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The next question from Ben Hutchins.
Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
Hey, Ben.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the nicknames that you go by. I was talking to Chris and Rondel earlier, and they're telling me about how they go by, or you go by Coach B. I know to kind of fans and students, you go by Coach Mike. Can you speak a little bit? What was the impetus behind those nicknames? Is there kind of a different venue you go by Coach Mike and Coach B in?
No, I'm no different than you, Ben. I'm just a regular person. All right. I coach for a living, which gives me an opportunity to have an influence on young people. But I'm not some king. I'm not a kingmaker. I don't do anything. So at home, I get called much worse things sometimes. So it's not just nicknames in the locker room or on the court. But again, for me, it's about respect. And I tell those guys, I call them by their nicknames. I want them to feel comfortable calling me whatever they call me. So as long as it's not disrespectful, I don't make too much about it. I just want to be a part of the team, just like I asked them to be. And to that vein, I don't want them to feel uptight, like they have to call me a certain thing every day. They can call me Coach Boynton, they can call me Coach Mike, they can call me Coach B, and it's well accepted. And they all have nicknames themselves, and I'm no different.
Gotcha. Do you think that goes to show how, just going by nickname, do you think that means you're so accessible to fans and students? Because, as a student, it's my second year here, and I see you, it seems, before COVID, I saw you around campus everywhere doing all these different events. do you think a simple little thing like a nickname, kind of like goes to point out that you're just like trying to be accessible to fans and students?
Yeah, it's been one of my biggest disappointments, to be honest, behind COVID, is I haven't spent much time on campus. I haven't really met many of the new students here in town. I'm not sure I could recognize very many of our new freshmen or transfers who are here for the first semester. And it's one thing that I've always enjoyed is just being a part of our campus community, and having lunch and walking through the COVID and having lunch at the student union occasionally. And unfortunately, that's just not something that's been something I've been able to do here this fall. So I think in many ways, I want people to understand that I'm no different than them. I have struggles sometimes. I enjoy being here. There's a lot of excitement about what's going on at Oklahoma State in my mind. I love being a part of this athletic department and representing this program. And I'm not better than anybody because I'm the coach of the basketball program. I'm no different than Ben Hutchins from wherever you're from. I'm just from a different place and grew up a little different, but I assume you're a good person. I assume you work hard and want something good to come out of your life, and I want the same. And I hope that works out for you.
Thanks, Coach. You just made my day. I appreciate it.
No problem, buddy.
Next question, Jimmy Gillespie. Go for it, Jimmy.
Hey, Coach. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I was talking to Rondel earlier, and obviously last March, which seems like it was forever ago, you guys were, getting into the conference tournament, and then his state tournament senior year gets canceled. And he said it was probably his lowest moment. Do you remember talking to him after that and just about what that meant and how much how disappointing that was for him? Do you remember a conversation about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, everything was so weird because no one really knew what was going on in the moment, right? I still remember driving back from Kansas City trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Like, the basketball season's over. No one wins their last game without being a champion, which we maybe need to get that trophy made. We won our last game and the season was over and we didn't get a championship out of it. Like, that doesn't happen in our sport. And then so the same thing happened for all these high school kids. He won a game. He was supposed to go to Tulsa and play a state tournament, and all of a sudden they got to pack up and shut it down. So I felt all their pain, and not to get off Rondel, but it happened to all these kids. Cade missed out on playing for a national championship, the Dix Nationals. His team was #1 in the country. They didn't get a chance to validate that. He didn't play in the McDonald's All-American game. He didn't play in the Jordan Brand Classic. He didn't go to the Nike Hoop Summit. Rondel didn't get to play in the state All-Star game. All these guys missed out on so much. And in many ways, it was terrible. And so I remember having conversations with all of them about their individual experiences and feeling equally bad that, many of them weren't able to finish things that they felt like they could finish the way that they wanted to finish them.
Yeah. And on that, I mean, have you seen maybe an added fire maybe from him especially, and probably the other guys too, just wanting to get back on the court and start playing basketball again because it's been so long since they've played a game?
Yeah, I'll say for the guys who are sophomores and up who are returning, it seems a little bit more, I don't want to say meaningful, but this is where they were, right? So they didn't finish something here. For everybody else, this is new. So it's not like they're finishing something that they had started before. For our freshmen, they're starting over. Like, they can't go back and complete what they didn't finish before. And so it's a different mentality. It has the same feeling that we're finally glad to be able to get out and compete against somebody else. But I think it means a little bit different to our young guys who have been through our conference and know what to expect than from our freshmen who still kind of, wet behind their ears and trying to figure out, why is all the fuss about all these really good teams in our conference? And they'll find out pretty soon.
Yeah. And to follow up on Rondel, obviously to be a very stacked, deep lineup at guards, where do you see him fitting, and how can he find minutes on the court? What can he provide to you to get on the court for you?
Well, I think the first thing that he's been able to embrace is the fastest way for a freshman, probably not named Cade Cunningham, if we're being honest, is on the defensive end and buying into being committed to helping your team, right? You're not going to be a primary playmaker for the most part as a freshman at this level. You just don't know what it takes. And he's embraced that. He's probably, if I were to list our top 3 defenders, he would be one of our best 3 defenders. Those guys always have value. Now, he's got to continue to get stronger and rebound better. And then as an offensive player, he's got to continue to be able to make shots. But he's made a great impression on me and the rest of the staff already to this point.
Yep. Thanks, Coach.
Next question from Dan Hawk. Go for it, Dan.
Hey, Coach Boynton. Going off of what Frank said earlier about conditioning, is that what's going to – I mean, you're going to have talent on both ends of the spectrum when you play opposing teams and whatnot. Is that going to be the biggest difference maker heading into this season? If you're not conditioning, you're going to stumble because of the fact that you're not going to probably get to play all the games that you want to be on the court this year.
Yeah, I think it's one of the bigger factors. I think the number one, though, is the team who can deal with the unpredictability of the season the best, right? Who can accept, hey, guys, we're not going to Morgantown tomorrow. We're going to get on a bus and drive to Waco instead. Like, who cannot be so disappointed that they can get to the next thing and really focus on taking advantage of the moment in front of them. Not worried about – and before it was just you can't worry about the last game. Today it could be, oh, you didn't play last game and we need you to start tonight because the guys in front of you are out this week. Like, who can handle those situations, the things that we don't know what they look like as the season kind of progresses, but for sure they're going to happen. You know, this year probably more than ever. There's the unpredictability of the season and who can deal with the adjustments that need to be made on the fly the best.
And thanks, Coach. I got another one. With that, you know, football, when the season started, one conference was in, one conference is out. Right now, it seems like basketball's in unison all together. What's your thoughts on rankings? Should they even be cared for, or should it just matter if you play, that's when the ranking starts?
Yeah, I've never been a preseason rankings fan. I don't understand how, when you haven't seen someone at all, that you can even make that type of judgment. But I understand why it's done. It creates excitement and energy and gets fan interest and all that stuff. But there really isn't a whole lot of value in my mind. That's no disrespect to anybody who votes on anything. It's just that there's no tangible value, right? When the season starts, you are what you do. Right, and however well you play is what you become. You know, we had 3 different teams last year. We were a top 25 team in the month of November, and we were a bottom 25 team in the month of January, and then we were somewhere in between in the February, March. So, you know, it is what it is. You just got to play the game. So we as coaches, and we try to get our players, although it's much difficult for them, to understand not to worry about it. Right. And it's great that K is going to get acknowledgement. He's earned it. But where you really earn it is how you perform when the season starts. You know, kind of to your question about all the conferences, I think the Ivy is still kind of out until at least January. Hopeful that they'll play for those kids' sake. But, you know, again, it's kind of back to the question I asked about Marshall. Like, what's going to happen with the Ivy League and with teams in Boston or teams in New York or teams in Pennsylvania and the rules that are in those different states. So, you know, we'll see.
And then my final one that I have is, how the heck have you been recruiting, and what's this process been like through this turmoil of everything? Because I know it's been flipped upside down, and thank you for correcting me on the Ivy League. I forgot about them.
No problem. I mean, recruiting is as difficult as it's ever been, at least for me. Not because you can't, just because the way I recruit has been, I mean, a sledgehammer taken to it. Right? No in-person contact, no campus visits. And so part of what I believe our strength as a staff is getting people to know who we are and what we're about. And it's hard to do that on the phone or via text or via Zoom call even, because, you know, you just don't have that personal interaction. You can't tell body language, and it's hard to get true connection through a computer screen. And so it's challenged me, and I think I spoke to it last week. It's really why I've been really, really slow with the trigger to really press too hard. I want to make sure we get the right guys. We obviously want to have the best class we can. I'd love it if that class was ranked, but that's not the number one driving force for me. For me, is to make sure we have the right fit. And if the class isn't ranked at all, and there's a bunch of guys that we believe can help our program that no one knows about, I'm very comfortable with that.
One follow-up with that, Chris Harris talked about he believed there's at least 2 or 3 guys that he brought in. Do you lean on a lot of your players that are, in that underclassmen role to like maybe, hey, there's a guy out here in Corpus Christi or, whatever, you should take a look at him?
Yeah, I mean, you got to rely almost solely on relationships right now. And obviously you got to continue to evaluate through film as much as possible. You got to be careful with film. Highlight films are dangerous, right? I haven't seen a bad highlight film yet. I actually saw a highlight film, a really good highlight film over the internet. Don't know what's true on the internet, of an official this past weekend. I didn't know officials put together highlight films, but someone's trying to get in the NBA on a 30-second Instagram post, and all power to them, right? But those things can be tricky. I don't know if that guy's a good official or not. I hope he is. But you got to be careful, right? You can pick the best moments and not really know what you're really getting. But Chris Harris, to speak to him, we talked about this last week as well. He takes pride in it. I think ultimately at some point later on in life, he'll play for a while, but he'll be a coach. It takes a lot of pride in working hard, building relationships. And, Cade is like, he's like an A-lister, right? Everybody wants to hang with him. So he's a guy that's easy to get people on the phone. Chris is like me. Like, he's just a grinder. Get in, try to find out who's who, what's what, build a relationship, and get it done that way.
That brings it back to your Gamecock days. Thanks, Coach.
Next question, Danielle Dwyer. Go for it, Danielle.
Hey, Coach. How's it going?
Great. How are you? I'm not sure I've seen the glasses before. They look nice.
Oh, thank you. So I wanted to ask you, the election's less than a week away, and for a lot of your players, this is probably the first time they really even get to vote, and definitely the first time to vote in a presidential election. And, you see like the NBA and the other major league leagues making a big push to vote, and the NCAA seems to be doing the same thing. Has there been discussions within your program just about the election and, helping guys maybe get registered, or just educating them on, how to prepare to vote and how to vote and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last part of the question is probably the most important, is educating them, partly because many of them, it is the first time, and they just don't have the awareness or really the experience. And they don't really have the passion for it either, because they don't understand the importance of being a part of the process. So we have educated all of them. We've tried to help and have successfully helped everyone on our team become registered to vote, and be able to either request an absentee ballot or know where their polling location is if they live in state. We obviously are going to have the day off next Tuesday and have the opportunity for guys in state who can go vote, or if guys in Texas need to go back and vote in person, to do that. And so we think it's important. It's an important civic duty that they have. Now, we can't make them, but we do try to stress the importance. We don't try to influence how they feel or what's important to them, but try to stress to them the importance of what these processes do for them, how it affects their life. Because most time, and I was the same way at 18, I didn't understand why it was important for me to vote for, a solicitor or an attorney general. Like, those things just didn't resonate as a young person. And now as an adult, I understand that those people make decisions about the judicial system, about the school system, about, where funds go in our community. And so as a 38-year-old, I have a better opportunity to share that experience with our guys.
And a follow-up to that, do you feel, I don't want to use the word excitement, but I'm trying to think of a better way to word this, and I can't. So is it more exciting maybe to be a coach right now, knowing that these guys have an opportunity to let their voices be heard more than guys did 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago, and that there is more of a platform to make meaningful change or to create these meaningful conversations or movements, for lack of a different word, than maybe there was before. Is that kind of exciting given the relationship you've built up with these guys and the influence you do have on their lives to maybe have an opportunity as well to do this in a great way, if that makes sense?
I don't know if exciting is the word I'd use, Daniel. I would say it's a reminder of the responsibility I have, right? It's a reminder to me that I don't think I had the courage that this generation of young kids have now to speak out on things that they feel are wrong or needs to change. And I'm very proud to see the courage that these young people have. I'm not going to say that that's how every coach feels. I'm sure that there are several coaches who'd rather the kids just shut up, right? And because they don't necessarily, by speaking out, make our jobs more easier, right? In some ways, because we have supporters who don't agree with what the kids are saying, it makes our jobs more difficult sometimes. So what I try to do is I try to, first of all, tell the kids, I don't mind them speaking on anything. They're a person first. They're not a basketball player for Oklahoma State University. But what I do tell them is be prepared to answer the questions that come your way because of how you feel or what you say. And so that's where the education comes. If you want to speak on criminal justice, know the laws, know how they work, know what's right and wrong. Don't just speak ignorantly, right, on something that is going to make it more embarrassing for you when you find out, well, that's not really how it works. And so I'm happy for the kids that they do have the courage to do it, and I support them fully. Again, it's not about making my job easier. It's about me helping make their lives better as they go forward in the next part of it.
And just a quick follow-up, sorry, because I don't feel we've talked to you since, or maybe we haven't, I think I was out of town, but anyway, since you guys did the practice virtually, is that something, you said you were going to have to watch what you say, you know, being mic'd up and all of that, but looking back at that experience, maybe just what it was able to provide for you guys, the fans, maybe recruiting as well, to kick off the season, what were your overall thoughts on just coming off of that? And is it something you're considering doing at some point in the future again?
Yeah, we'll very likely do it again. For sure once, maybe 2 more times before we start playing games. One of the things that it did, so NBA scouts are not allowed to go to college practices this year. We had 21, I think, of the 30 NBA teams viewing our practice. It's great for our program, great exposure for the kids who have the aspirations of being there, knowing that they still have that opportunity to be evaluated. It was good for our fans. You know, it's been a long time. There's been a lot of excitement built up about this team to see those guys out there. And although it wasn't our best practice, but just to see them for the first time was good. And it was good for me. It was good for me to feel like we were back on, right? We haven't been on since March 12th. And I don't usually cuss much during games anyway, but it's a reminder that maybe you got to be more conscious of things. So, yeah, we'll do it again. It was good, but I hope the next time we do it, it'll be even better.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
No problem.
Yeah, the next question from Marshall Scott.
Back to kind of a touchy subject, I guess. Arizona got its notice of allegation recently. How close of an eye do you keep on that kind of stuff, just as you can, you know, kind of help build your case, I guess?
It's not touchy, so you don't have to apologize for asking. It's relevant. It matters. It's something I'm very aware of. I tell you guys all the time, I read a lot. I read a lot of what you guys write. I'll be honest. It doesn't bother me whether you write good or bad. So keep writing what you want and report what you feel is necessary. I grew up in Brooklyn, so it's hard to kind of crack my skin. I'll say this. I'm interested to watch how the rest of the cases play out. You know, obviously we were the first up, which kind of was in that group of cases from the SDNY. I guess, how long ago was that now? It's been so long, I can't remember. But obviously we're still dealing with some of the ramifications or residue, if you will, from that. And so I follow it, I watch it, and I'm curious to see how the rest of the cases do play out and see how our appeal goes.
Gotcha. And then kind of transitioning from that, you've told the story a million times, but I'm just trying to make sure I get the details right. Whenever you first saw Cade, I believe you said it was like a Thanksgiving tournament. There was another tournament across town. Were you originally there to see Adam and Kyler Edwards, and kind of just that first day that you saw him?
No, so I think you got two dates mixed up. So the first
Okay.
time I saw him was in about, I think maybe, I don't know the exact date, either late September, early October of that year. It was at a practice at Arlington Blue High School. I went to see Kyler then and saw Cade for the first time. Then I came back the next time to watch them play, and I still wanted to see Kyler, but I was really starting to recruit Cade. And there was another event going on that was after our trip to Maui that year over Thanksgiving weekend.
What I guess what stood out about him as a high school freshman?
Well, I thought he was, first of all, I thought he was a 17-year-old instead of a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old, however he was at the time. And it's crazy. I reminded him of this, and he thought back about how old he was, and he said, damn, I was really 14 years old when you first saw me. And, to think that I just saw a mature kid who had a high degree of passion for basketball, who cared about winning, and who really carried himself with a maturity that I haven't seen very much in freshman and high school. So it wasn't until I realized he was just a freshman and I was like, all in, chips in, like, we're going to find a way to do this. But once that happened, it was, again, when I came back in that Thanksgiving weekend, it was to see Kyler Edwards and to watch Cade Cunningham.
You mentioned highlight tapes earlier. This has kind of came along a lot recently in the last few years, but it was still a thing back then. But do you think that a Cade Cunningham at a time like this, at a pretty big school that he was at, do you think that he would have been as lesser known as he was as a freshman?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was hard to evaluate for Cade early, and it's probably something that just gets more appreciated the higher level you go. He's not like a ball dominant, super athlete, like who just he doesn't go out there and score 50 points, right? So you really understand basketball to appreciate his value to the game, and his value is in winning. His value is in making his teammates better. His value is in knowing that he doesn't have to take 25 shots to be a really effective player. That, on the team he played, I don't know what he averaged last year, but he didn't average 30 in high school. He was the #1 player in the country, and that doesn't happen very often. It's usually those guys are much more flashy, much more athletic. You see highlight dunks, and his athleticism has caught up to his skill, but early on, his athleticism just wasn't there. He's still not a great athlete. He's a really good athlete at 6'8", but his athleticism still has some growing to do.
Gotcha. You mentioned
he's got more room to grow.
You mentioned you haven't seen any bad highlight tapes. I'll throw something together for you.
I appreciate that.
Frank Bonner, you are up next. Go ahead, Frank.
Man, I want to ask you about Chris and his attitude. He seems like the type of person that, in tough situations, he has the best possible attitude. And how much of that about him played into him being able to come back from his injury the way he has?
Chris Harris is the ultimate foxhole guy. You're going down the back alley, that's the guy you want with him. You want him hunkered down with you. You want him on your side. And again, the thing that you value about him is he understands who he is, and he understands what he's supposed to bring to the table, and he tries to bring that every day. He drives in his lane. He's not worried about the guy in the nicer car right next to him doing 95. He's doing 75 in his, Chrysler 300. Like, he's not worried about the Corvette next to him. and because of that, he stays pretty focused on what he does. And part of his job is to bring a great attitude, be a tremendous teammate, understand what we're doing, help his teammates get better, and then just kind of fit in and be a good piece. Again, he's me. He's a better version of me because he can shoot it much better than I ever could. But I love that kid to death.
Appreciate you.